then let's read the directions together. It says, you will be creating a logo for yourself. Most people choose to do something with their initials. So I'd like you to write your initials right now. Mine are EAP because my first name starts with E, my middle name starts with A, and my last name starts with P. Or you can just do your first and last name. So please put both of those right there. But you have the choice to decide if another image represents you better. So it doesn't have to be your initials. It's just what most people choose to do. We will talk about each of the principles of design and techniques artists use to create these principles in their artwork. Then you will create at least 5 thumbnail sketches of logos using that principle of design. So on each page there will be one row that you will use for that principle of design, and then there may be other rows that you can use just for any other ideas that you have. Okay. These additional squares at the bottom can use the same principle of design or be something completely different. Some days you'll have lots of ideas, and some days you might not have as many. By the end of the unit, all of the squares need to be filled in with sketches of ideas for your personal logo. So even if you don't get them all done in class, you can work on them in study hall. Every little thumbnail needs to be filled in by the end of this. The standard that we're covering is generating ideas, and so you have to actually have different ideas for this standard. Okay, so the first principle of design we're going to be talking about is rhythm. So please write that in the back. And it causes visual tempo or beat. Please write that definition down. And feel free to pause the video anytime you need to. Okay, so how do artists create rhythm in their artwork? First of all, they do it with repeated lines, repeated shapes, repeated hue or color, and repeated pattern or texture. Just a little bit so you can see those. All right, so this is an example of a real logo for Cisco. It's a networking company. They deal with like internet data and things. And this has rhythm. It has this repeated line. It even probably has some movement because it looks like it's getting bigger, smaller, bigger, smaller. So that is an example of rhythm. All right, now I'm going to show you some examples of how I created a logo using those elements. So the first one, I tried to repeat the line. I tried to create 2 slanted lines for each letter and then build my EAP off of them. If I were you, I would probably copy this idea exactly, but with your letters, okay? So try to do slanted lines and then change it into your letters somehow, just to start getting your ideas going. The next one is repeated shapes. So I did 3 little circles, and then I tried to make my letters look very round to fit into those shapes. The next one, I did 3 diamonds, and then I tried to slant my letters and make them more, kind of more square-ish almost to fit in those shapes. And then with hue, I have lighter pencil on the left of each letter and darker pencil on the right of each letter. And then the last one is pattern. I was kind of thinking of kind of a mix between music, like sheet music, and also maybe like flannel, and just trying to see what I could do with the pattern. And remember, you don't have to use all 3 initials. You can just do 2. So on this one, I just used my E and my P. Next element we're going to talk about is balance. Balance is when the sides seem equal or stable. It creates a sense that the elements are equally important. So if I look at this little artwork right here, I have one big star, but it's big, and I have many little stars, and there's many. So it seems like these 2 balance each other out. So how do artists create balance in their artwork? They use symmetry, asymmetry, and radial symmetry. Let's talk about what each of those are. So here is balance. Balance is the element of art, or the principle of design in art, where we are trying to make things look visually stable or the same. So symmetrical balance is when things are exactly the same. They mirror each other. If there's dark lime green in the middle, there's dark lime green in the middle. If there's a big box of red on the bottom left, there's a big box of red on the bottom right. Asymmetrical balance is when things still appear stable, but they are not mirrored exactly. So on the right side of this, I have lots of little pieces, and those are balanced out by fewer big and bold red pieces. So that's asymmetrical balance. In architecture, we have symmetry. Here's our Capitol building, and I could divide this right down, fold it in half, and it would mirror each other. And then here's an altarpiece. This would be what is above the pastor, behind the pastor when he's talking at a church. And even though these two people are not exactly the same, they're both like, wearing red-ish. And then these two people are taller and have, white clothing on. These two shapes match each other. Again, we would divide it down the middle and it would match. Here's some artworks with asymmetry. So this is a Japanese print, and it has Mount Fuji here. That has a lot of significance for the religious traditions in Japan. And they have this big mountain off to the back here, and then small details on the other side, at the bottom of the other side of the painting. Mary Cassatt is a famous female painter, and she actually studied for a semester in Japan. And when she came back, she started painting a lot more asymmetry in her artwork. So she's this big black, dark area right here, but less detail, and then lighter colors, but much more detail on the other side. So that balances it out. And then somebody a little closer to our time is David Hockney. He was painting like in the 50s. He has asymmetry here. He's got a lot of smaller details in part of his artwork, and then just some big, bold areas of color in the other part. So that balances it out. The third type of symmetry is radial, and this is usually the hardest one for students to understand. Radial is when things go around in a circle. So like this far out from the center, it's all the same. If I go this far out from the center, it's all the same. If I go out this far from the center, it's all the same. That is radial. So this is an ink drawing doing the same thing. And it can be broken into like, pie shapes. So like this one matches this one and this one and this one. But that's radial, is when it comes out from the center and that far out, it's all the same. So some logos with radial balance. This is the Mercedes-Benz logo. And then this is BP oil or gas logo. And then this one can be a challenge for students. People want to say right away, this must be radial symmetry because it's round, but it's not, because if I go out from this distance, there's not stars all the way around. So instead it is symmetrical, because I could divide it in half and this half would be on this half. Now ignore the trademark, but other than that, the logo is symmetrical. And then let's take a look at this one. This is the Chanel logo. If I divide it down the middle here, it has symmetry. But the other cool thing is I could divide it across and it would also fold up or fold down and mirror over with symmetry. In the middle, and then I tried to build my E and my P kind of mirroring each other off the side. The next one, I used a thick line in the middle for symmetry and tried to create thin lines on the outside for my E and my P. The next one, I have asymmetry. So I have a big P and then balancing that with a little E and A on the other side. Then here I tried to do asymmetry again, but this one is really not a good example, and you're going to have times that happens. So let's talk about why before I cross it off. So first I made a big E and I made a small A and P, but the big E also has like big visual interest in the different design of the letter, where the A and the P are really simple. So this would emphasize the E and not balance, actually not create that asymmetrical. So this is a bad idea, and that's okay. You're going to have some where you're like, well, that didn't work out. I wanted to show you one that I tried that didn't really work out. This one is asymmetry. After doing this one, I went, okay, my E needs to be light. My A and P, if they're going to be smaller, they need to have more visual weight. So I made those thicker. Okay. Then radial. Radial can be pretty hard to create. I'm not going to lie to you. So I'm lucky because my E can look like a circle. So I made my E like that. And then I tried to make each letter mirror itself. So I have the E's, the A's across from each other, and the P's across from each other. Not my favorite, but hey, I tried some radial. And then here I just tried a circle with a P that reflects, but it ends up looking like a lowercase d, and I'm not sure that I like that. And then an E that reflects over here. So again, we're just experimenting. It might not be the best, but that's okay.